Greetings, my 3G friends in isolation at your homes. I didn't want this month to go by without us taking a look at some things that will help us continue on our goals, even though we're kind of homebound and life isn't what we expected and life isn't what's normal. Because this is the third month, and this is the month that we tend to get drugged down and snagged up. And this is the month that those New Year's resolutions just kind of fizzle out. So, this is the month we need to really meet together to talk about reassessing and reevaluating how we're doing with our goals. And so, I just didn't want to leave you in the lurch until next month. So I thought, well, I can make a video with this. So here we go. Here's our video. Okay. So this session is session 3, and it's called Pushing Through: How to Handle the Roadblocks for Your Goals. Okay. And we are going to hit some snags along the way. There's going to be a huge energy drop towards our goals at this point. It is just a foregone conclusion. That's just what always happens. And sometimes we have failed along the way in this early route of our goals. And failure, we have to realize, is a friend. We need to have a new title for friendship, for failure, that it's our friend, that it is a learning motivator instead of paralyzing us. We need the grace to move through the things that are roadblocks that are snagging us up. Okay, so Henry Cloud talks about that we all have a vision, we all have a goal, we have a dream, but life gets in the way. And so we got to figure out what things in life are getting in our way to put them into proper perspective. So hopefully that helps. So he said, change is hard. It takes energy to change. And he's talking about 6 stages of us in relationship to wanting change. So let me share these with you. The first one is the pre-contemplative stage. You really don't know if this is what you want to do. You have this goal, but you aren't really totally committed to it. You're pre-contemplating it. It might be something that you're excited about, or you're excited at first and then it kind of died down and you go, well, am I really excited about this? The second thing is contemplation. And this is, okay, you know what? I do think that this is a goal, a good goal. And the third one is the preparation stage. This is what I'm going to do to move towards this goal. It's sort of like making a plan for it, that we've talked about how to make a plan in the last 2 sessions. The fourth one is the action stage. And that's kind of where we need to be right now. But if we're reevaluating our goals, we might not be there. But we need to be in action towards our goals. And then the next one is the maintenance stage. And that's just really the hardest one for me and for most people. It's understanding what to do and to working at it, but to keep the motivation high to get it done. And then there's the 6th stage, and that's called the relapse stage. You're kind of falling off the wagon. Your mind is convincing you that this is not really what you want to do, or it wasn't that important, or you'll never achieve it, or you have a lot of self-talk in that stage. So you have to ask yourself, what is driving the change or the goal that you want to accomplish? What one step can I take to get me in that right direction? It's like a person who's depressed. The thing they need to do most is get out of bed, go to the playground, go take a walk, go do something, one little thing. What is one little thing that you can do that can get you back on track for this goal that you have that is somewhat kind of wavering right now? Okay, but most important, you need some outside motivation. So we need to be aware of the pressures that we face when we're trying to reach these goals. And those are internal and external. In other words, internally, you have all this self-talk. I'm not perfect. I can't do this right. I failed in the past. I really don't have much time to do this. I'm not sure it's what I want to do. We start convincing ourselves internally. And then externally, we go, oh my goodness, I don't know if I have the money to do this. I don't have the energy. I don't have the health right now. I'm not strong enough. I don't have enough relationships around me to get this done. You know, yeah, these are the external things and the internal things. Both are causing you to kind of get a snag and get stuck in your goals. And we do need to address these specifically because they will affect your motivation in this third month of your trying to reach a goal. I was just thinking about Marty. You know, her goal is to build more relationships with non-Christians, but we're stuck at home now. So how does that goal work? She's got to be creative. She's just got to be creative. And we all have to be creative in these times when we're kind of stuck at home, just like me doing this video. That just happens to be the creative idea that I came up with so that we didn't miss out on this month. The second thing that you need to be aware of if your goal is being a little bit touched upon is, do you have any SMART violations? Remember SMART? Be specific, have it measurable. Is it attainable? Is it realistic? Is it time-based? Those things. Are we kind of not specific enough in our goal? Have we not measured out something that needs to be done? You know, when I was doing my book, I had goal here for this, goal here for this, goal here for this, and calendared it all. And it's exciting. I was a little bit delayed because it took longer to edit than I thought, but I made my goals, and I'm so excited about that. And it was very specific. It was measurable. It was attainable. It was realistic. It was time-based. But when we violate one of those, when we aren't specific, when we're kind of vague, or we don't measure it, we don't set a goal, we just say, oh, I hope this happens, or I wish that this would happen, then we're just not specific enough and not measurable enough. The next thing we need to consider is objective and subjective goals. Define what that type of goal is. I went through a time where one of my goals was to have more mercy. Now that is a subjective goal. How do I measure mercy? You know, like I say when I start, on a scale of 1 to 5, how merciful am I as a person? Oh, I may be a 2. And so God began to work, and I began to set this goal and work with God and learn about mercy and everything. And before I knew it, I was able to say, you know, I'm more of a 4. People would say to me, you're so merciful. And I go, oh my goodness, I wasn't, but I'm glad I made that as a goal. So that's a subjective goal. I want to be more kind. I want to be more merciful. I think my goal to walk closer with the Holy Spirit is kind of a subjective goal because it's sort of measurable, but in a way it's kind of subjective. How much more do I do this? So objective goal would be something like financial. Like Sandy has the goal to get more clients and or to lose weight. Those things are all measurable. So those are objective goals. So we need to figure out, is it subjective or objective? And we need to look at it from that point of view and measure it from that point of view. The next one is catastrophic thinking. And this is sometimes from our past. Catastrophic thinking is believing that if you fail, you can't have another chance. That your losses in your life are speaking louder than your successes. This may have happened as an early development as a child where your parents were very catastrophic. You know, if it's not good, it's all bad, you know. And that became your pattern of how you looked at things. Catastrophic thinking. Failure and loss were not normal. They were something to be feared and something to be, you know, panicked about. Whereas we need to normalize failure and loss, and we just need to normalize it. It is part of our life. What do you do when things fall apart? Things are falling apart right now kind of in our world. What do you do when things are falling apart? The next one is fantasy. Sometimes we live in a fantasy world where we just say, if this happens, then I'll be able to be more successful. If he changes, if this happens, if I meet Mr. Right, if something else happens, then it'll all go on course. And so we're living in this fantasy, expecting something to happen when we're in control, when we need to make that thing happen. Fantasy life is an antiseptic to risk. It kind of causes us to not take risk. You lose your motivation when you live in a fantasy world. The next one is called the fear wall. And the fear wall is when you are paralyzed. You are so afraid of failure that you're like stuck. I'm not going to try. I'm not going to risk. Um, so you get discouraged easily, and you really have to realize that there's always some kind of fear that's going to get in the way and affect you, and we need to learn to handle those fears. And I love the expression of do it afraid. Even if you're fearful, do it afraid. Jesus asked Mary Magdalene to go to the disciples and tell them that he'd risen. And she was afraid, but she did it anyway. So it's do it afraid. That's it. Okay. So we need to ask ourselves what is working and what is not working to achieve our goal. We have to realize that we can't beat our head against the wall. We just need to evaluate. Okay, this isn't working. Failure is okay. It shows us what is Alexander Graham Bell, was it, or was Edison? Edison said, well, that failure just showed me one more thing that doesn't work. So that's what we need. Okay, so to handle all this, we need to have two changes. First of all, we need to have a new energy source. And I realize that us not meeting takes away an energy source. Perhaps we don't have other people around us during the week, during the month, that are not good energy sources. We also have people who burden us down, who are so negative. We need energy, and people give energy. And if you're surrounded by people who are draining people, then we need to evaluate that and really, go from there. I remember when I first started the Speakers Bureau, I think I shared this with you, that my daughter was the only one who said to me, Mom, that's a great idea. It's the best idea you've ever had. So that I was on the phone with my brother the other day, who is the idea man, but never completes a task. He has all these ideas, and every time you talk to him, it's a new idea under the sun, but he never completes anything. So he came up with this new idea, and I love it. It's called Main Street Match, and he's matching up small entrepreneur business owners with communities who need that business in their life. And it's a great idea. But then right afterwards, he told me about 6 other ideas that he has. And I just told him, I said, you have got to focus in on one. This is a great idea. Focus on this one. But he just never gets anything done. And so I needed to say to him, this is the best idea you've ever had. Go for it. Go for it. Put your energy here. This can happen. So he needed that. And so I started giving him ideas for slogans and things like that. And he just was so energized after that conversation on the phone. He just was so excited about, I can't wait to put this into practice and talk to this person about this. And that's what we need. We need that new energy source. When I finished the book and I pushed that button to send it into Kindle, I went, Lord, we're in trouble. I'm a compulsive writer. I need a new project. Well, I've been trying to write this book on marriage for probably 5 years or so. And every time I sit down to do it, I have my notes, I have my thoughts. It just doesn't come out right. I just fizzle out, and I feel like a failure, and I feel like I'm letting the Lord down. And then I had to realize, Lord, it's not the right time, is it? And so the other night, remember how I asked a question the night before? I said, okay, what would be my next writing project, Lord, if you want to give me one? And the next morning I woke up. I'm so excited to share this with you. He gave me the title of the marriage book. He gave me how to approach it and how to do it. I am so excited. I've already got my outlines made. It's just so exciting when the Lord is behind it and he gives you that energy. So it's called Marriage on the Mend, and I'm going to do it as a workbook instead of a book. And it's going to be a workbook that women can use in small groups. And at the end of each section, there's going to be a marriage challenge, a marriage conflict that a couple has, and they're going to use the principles in that chapter to solve that problem. So eventually we might make a DVD of it, but for right now, it's just going to be the workbook. So I'm excited about that. So I think we need to realize, here's a chart that Henry Cloud shared. Is that on there okay? And what it shows is that we think that when we have a goal, it's just going to go straight up. So I'm going to write this book and it's just going to, every day I'm just going to go straight up, okay? But already I run into some snags. And so really, this is reality for our goals. That we start here, we go up, oops, little bit of a downswing, whoop, up, but notice we're always up higher the entire way up. So I've already had some of these whoop-de-doops with my new book, and I'm, kind of thinking about those and working them out so I can start on the upswing again. Yeah. So hopefully that helps. Notice you get higher every time, but there's always peaks and valleys, and we have to not let those peaks and valleys destroy us. Remember that if you were from a catastrophic oriented family, those valleys would become catastrophic and you wouldn't be able to recover. But God can help you recover if you look at failure and catastrophe as not being that bad. The second thing we need, so the first thing is new energy source. The second thing is a new template. And the template is our plan for accomplishing this goal. So we can ask ourselves, is there another way to do this? And that's what I'm thinking about. When my book on marriage, just 6 years, just every time I sat down, it was like, nothing. So finally now I'm so excited. I have a new template. I have a new way to approach it. And I'm very excited about this. And God is feeding me ideas like crazy. Can't write them down fast enough. And I'm really seeing that this is my new template. And this one's going to work. We might go through 10 templates before we find the right way to do something or the best way to do something. So what is our plan and our path for growth? What is that? So we need both energy and a new template, but we also need to be realistic. I'm going to show you the next chart. Is that on there okay? The next chart is we have this plan, okay? And over here, this is not challenging enough. We're just sort of in a comfortable zone. This is challenging, and this is overwhelming. Too much. This is just right. This is just too much, and this is just not enough. So, can you see that okay? Yeah. So we need to evaluate. As we evaluate our goals, we need to evaluate, is it overwhelming? Did we not break it down into little bite-sized pieces enough? Or is it just something that we just can't accomplish right now because there's a C virus going on? Or what do we have some obstacles that need to be realistically evaluated? So I'm just thinking about Gail. This is so fun being home because you can work so hard on your planning of your reunion. I'm so excited about that for you. And also for Marcy, it's great. Marcy's sleeping now because she's home and it's working. She's not under so much stress from work. And so she's getting a feel for sleeping. She's changing her sleeping patterns. I'm so excited about that. God is really answering a lot of our prayers, and that's great. So there were some questions that were asked. I'll come back to those later. Let's see. We need to assess and attack our obstacles. And one of them, again, is internal, and that would be your self-talk. What do you say to yourself? I'll never do this. I can't do this. What do you say to yourself? Somewhere in your life, you didn't learn to follow through, to carry through, to push through. Somewhere in your life, you just learned to just give up. Like my brother, never learned to finish a task. And I want him, even at 75 years old, to finish a task, And so he needs to relearn how to follow through. Somewhere in his past, he didn't have the structure, he didn't have the energy, he was isolated or whatever. His self-talk defeated him. So these internal obstacles are not helping him get done what he really wants to do. Then externally, sometimes there's people who put us down. There's people who say, oh, you can't do that. Oh, what makes you think you can accomplish that? And those are toxic people. And we need to not even share our goals with them. These people stand against you. We need some people who stand for you. They're dream stealers. They're Eeyores. They pour cold water on everything. And they just kind of try to want to get you to accept it. You can't do this. But God has called you to this. He's put this goal on your heart. He's called you to do that. So you need to quarantine those people. That's a good word that we're using now, quarantine. We need to quarantine those people from our lives. Now, and Henry Cloud says you need to identify the obstacles that you're running against. You need to make a list of them, both internally and externally. He gave the example of an executive woman who was overwhelmed with things she had to get done. It was her marriage, her kids, issues, money, company concerns at her job. She had about 8 or 9 things that were just hanging over her. And she kept asking, okay, is that it? Have I listed them all? Have I listed them all? And then when she looked at the list, she said, you know what? I can handle these one at a time. But I'm so busy looking at the overwhelming stress of it all that I can't even approach the one little thing. So we need to normalize obstacles. Obstacles are normal. Failure is normal. We need to normalize the fact that there's going to be some C virus or something else that's going to come in our way of accomplishing our goals. It's interesting. Sometimes when I've tried to write the marriage book, my marriage has been the worst ever. And yet I see that God is using that to remind me of some things, to help me think things through and maybe what other people are experiencing. There was a married couple who wanted to improve their marriage, as an example, and he was always angry. And so John Townsend got him to just walk through his anger and to have his wife not run from his anger, but to walk into his anger and really evaluate the anger. And this turned everything around for them in their couple. So look at the patterns that you're doing and see what is working and what is not working. You might need to do a 180-degree change in your patterns and not say to yourself, here I go again, I'm such a loser, such a failure, I'm not going to do this. Because we need to let failure be a teacher. So we need to work around in a sort of a way, that's a techie term, to work around a situation. Get creative. I was just listening to a message by Matt Brown from Riverside, California, pastor. Really love this guy. And he's talking about this coronavirus, and he's just saying we need to be getting creative. We absolutely need to get creative instead of just letting us be defeated by it. We need to make a schedule within it. We need to not let it defeat us. So we ask ourselves, what are the power drains in our life? We all have and need time and energy. So what drains our time and what drains our energy? It's our own choice. We all have this energy. We all have this time. It's our choice where we deposit the time. And Henry Cloud was saying that TV, people watch an average of 4 hours of TV a day, maybe more with this coronavirus and being home. And he said they have done studies and they've found that people who watch that much TV can get into a mild depression. There's nothing that kills your motivation than depression. But he said reading increases your motivation. So isn't that interesting? So if you're feeling kind of depressed, ask yourself, how much TV are you really watching? What are you doing with your time? What things charge you up? He said, look at yourself and ask yourself, are you an introvert, an extrovert, or somewhere in between? If you're an introvert, you have got to allow yourself time to be alone. You can't be solid people. You need to have time alone to think, to refresh, to renew. If you're an extrovert, you absolutely need people. If you don't have people around you, you begin to fade. So my daughter's an extrovert. My son-in-law is an introvert. And he realizes what she needs. And so he lets her have company over a bunch of times, which would not be his preference. And she knows that he needs time alone. And so she gives him that time alone. You recognize your needs. What are you? and know yourself and know when you need to back off or when you need people. I'm an extrovert, so there's times that I need people. And so can I call them up on the phone with this C virus? Can I, can I meet with them and walk with them, but walk 3 feet apart? How can I do this? Another thing to watch out for, he calls the false self. And this is when people are asking you to be something that you aren't. And you are a people pleaser, so you go along with what they want you to be. But it's really, you're being a false self. So you really need to learn to be honest and truthful and identify when people are asking you to be something that you are not. The next thing he says is to watch out for basic self-care. And I know I've talked to so many friends who say, well, it doesn't matter what time I go to bed because I can sleep in because I'm in my house, And so they're starting these new patterns of watching movies late into the night and then sleeping in the next morning. And their normal patterns are just totally disrupted. And that's maybe not healthy because this is going to be over soon. And you're going to have to rearrange your schedule, maybe eating right, sleeping, taking care of yourself, exercising. Just because you can't go to the gym, I have my little gym set up around the house. I have cones in the back to walk over, and I walk every day, and I've got my exercise bike and some weights somewhere. And so I just kind of walk around the house during different times, during breaks during the day, and do some of these exercises. It's kind of fun. Some of the questions that people ask them. Number one was to realize that this person realized that their goals are not motivating them. So what should they do? They said, they need a new template and they need more energy. And then also ask, is your heart connected to this goal? Because if your heart's not connected, it's not going to be something that you want to really accomplish. Goals reflect what's really inside of you. Somebody also asked, what is the difference between fear, using fear for motivation? So he had this chart here. And in this chart, of course, this is the lazy you from fear. In other words, I can't do this because of fear. This is fear driving you because fear can be a driving force. But this is fear paralyzing you. This is a good place to be. The rest of them don't work for you to reach your goals. Hope that I held that up right for you. Let's see. The next thing is, how do you know if you're in relapse on your goals? He said, well, if a week goes by and you don't see any fruit towards the accomplishment of your goal, then you might be in relapse. So you need to get the new energy, get the new template, step out a little bit, do something to move you in that direction, get back on course. And the question he ended with was, am I calendaring my goals? Am I calendaring my goals? So I hope that this has been helpful because I know that we're kind of at this 2 months slump sometimes where roadblocks and things get in the way. And then to add to that, the C virus and our whole schedules are thrown up, apart. So Matt Brown in his sermon this morning was suggesting that we make a schedule for the family for the day. When are the kids going to get up? What are they going to do during the day? What are you going to do during the day? Make sure that you have time alone. Make sure they have time alone. Make sure that everybody's needs are met as you're hovered into this place at home just together for a long time. It can really get to you. And suddenly you just throw your goals out the window. And actually, this is a great time to get your goals accomplished. So, just looking at that and making a schedule for your day, instead of just letting the day happen to you, you happen to the day. So God's blessings. I want you to know I'm praying for each one of you. And I hope that you're feeling encouraged and that this time together on YouTube encouraged you. So I pray that you are blessed and that God speaks to you and whispers to you what he wants you to be involved with. So God's blessings. I'll see you next month. Prayerfully, we'll be back on schedule with life.